Today is my great pleasure to talk to Heather Allin. She is the ACTRA's president in Toronto. Thanks a lot, Heather, for doing this interview with me.
You're very welcome, Kempton. Glad to be here.
So, Heather, tell me, you have been to Banff for many times now. Tell me why do you go to Banff?
So I am the elected president of a member-run organization, and that organization is dedicated to making actors' lives a little bit better. And we have a number of things that we do that deal with that issue. One of them is negotiating contracts with our counterparties to make sure that actors are reasonably paid and compensated and taken care of, working conditions, an ability to retire, insurance and benefits, that sort of thing, and taken care of in what could be extreme circumstances, bad weather conditions where we have to shoot outside in cold, wet environments, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Those are the kinds of things that we take care of. So that's what I refer to as negotiating, and then we steward those contracts. But much of the reason why we go to Banff is to talk about what the thing actors most want, which is an opportunity to act. And what that means is we like to act in scripted drama and comedy. And so much of what our conversation is about is making sure that there is enough funding for the development of Canadian productions, and that there is enough Canadians actually in those Canadian productions being on that stage. So we're developing a talent pool that moves towards excellence, and to make sure that there is enough space, viewing space on our big and our small screens, whatever size they may be, that actually shows Canadian content. So there's a place for it to be seen, develop a star component, and to have what we refer to as intellectual property and a back end or some monetary gain.
So for this,
so those are the sort of three things that we work towards it.
So for this Banff, for example, for this Banff, for example, Heather,
those are our big issues.
Right. So Heather, for this Banff, for example, did you get a chance to meet with some of the senior network executives and talk to them and pass on like your concerns, or what's the situation on that front?
I didn't get a chance to do a lot of that. This is the campaign that we have is a long-running campaign. We started it in about 2002, and we keep developing it. We have a regular relationship with Conrad von Finkenstein, for example, and talking about broadcast regulations and what that means, and content regulations versus quota and funding regulations. And we're in constant conversation with him. In 1999, there was the then board and the then chair made what we refer to as a disastrous decision, which allowed the broadcasters to have, in quotation marks, flexibility. And the result of that was we went from 13-hour-long drama episodics down to 3 within 3 years. And we have not recovered back even 10 years later, 12 years later, to that level, but we're working on it. So there has been an improvement, but we still have a way to go.
This is what you're talking about, what you, in our preview interview, you're talking about the 27 hours of board dramas versus 1 hour Canadian content. Is that the...
On average, there is a significant wave of non-Canadian content, shall we say, and it looks in many cases like an hour versus 27 hours in what we refer to as real prime time. If that number were to double, and this is for the private broadcasters, the public broadcaster CBC has a significantly better track record. But if we were to just have, instead of 1 hour, to have 2 hours, that would double the amount of work that there is in the industry, and it would double the return on investment that both Canadians and producers and actors and creative people and the buyers would get back from that.
Right.
Which
now,
which
Heather,
is a significant portion of our industry.
Now, now, Heather, not that I
and a
agree with.
significant portion also of our gross domestic product.
Right, but now, Heather, not that I agree with this view, but I don't know if you remember. I think last year or the year before, our Alberta Minister of Culture and Community Spirit, Lindsay Blackett, actually, I don't want to misquote him, but I think his words are in the line of, well, the Canadian make shitty programs, and that's why we don't have, like, we don't watch our own program, or we don't buy our own programs and stuff like that. So what would your response to be to this kind of critiques, fair and unfair? But
well, I'd first like to point out that he was thoroughly trounced for that in newspapers and at the festival last year, to the point where he sort of retracted some of what he said and made apologies. I would point to the significant work that we have done in this industry with shows like The Endgame, which is currently playing now, with shows like Heartland, with Degrassi: The Next Generation, with Corner Gas, with Flashpoint, with Rookie Blue, and all of the many new shows that are coming out with Being Erica. These shows not only have taken a Canadian audience, they have shown, they have been bought around the world. And this is, in fact, in many cases, the business model that we are using is a model that the Americans are coming to us to learn how to do. So not only are we doing well, we're actually out in the lead in terms of much of what we can develop. And I would say, in fact, also, most Canadians get a real kick out of the fact that as we show Skylines, we recognize the seawall in Vancouver and the Rock in Newfoundland and the CN Tower in Toronto, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think that with the digital age, what's happening is many of Canadians are actually seeking out Canadian program to remember and remind ourselves who we are and see ourselves on TV, because that's the biggest thing. This is as much a cultural sovereignty conversation as it is an industry conversation, as it is a gross domestic product conversation. Yep. The fact that Canadians, in fact, people who watch whatever, define themselves by what they see. And if we are to define ourselves as Canadian, then we want to make sure that what we put up are our sensibilities. And to be actually fair, Canadians are the experts in telling our own stories. Who's going to tell the story of Stephen Harper? Who's going to tell the story of Johnny MacDonald? Who's going to tell the story of Andrea Horwath, who's the leader of the NDP in Ontario? Who's going to tell the story of Shirley Douglas, of folks that are icons in our industry, that are Canadian, that have decided that if for whatever reason are here. Terry Fox, for example. Canadians are the ones who will tell Canadian stories, and they will tell it from the perspective and through the eyes or the lens of Canadians. That doesn't mean that we don't tell the stories of Winnie Mandela, for example, and Gandhi, and stories about Rwanda, but we tell it through a Canadian lens. We tell these stories in a particular way.
Right. So you mentioned the digital media and whatnot. So let me ask you, how do you see your union members' rights and the money that they can make from the new media? Are they being fairly treated, or do you see them the rights being signed away? Basically, when they sign a contract, they have to give up all their rights. I don't know what's the situation on that. So can you comment on that?
Sure. In fact, in 2007, ACTRA went on strike because the producers at the time wanted to have distribution on the internet for free, and our case, which we seemed to get a huge take-up from the general population, was, why should we be working for free? Nobody else works for free, so why should we be working for free? And we won that. And what we won was a contract that says it's what's referred to as a true residual model. So from first dollar, we get a percentage of every dollar that is sold, and of percentage of every dollar value that's of a property that's sold.
Can you give me some?
If no money is made, the percentage of zero is still zero, and if money is made, it's shared.
Can you give me some specifics, like what kind of percentage are we talking about? And those are public information, right?
No, it's part of our contract. It's quite straightforward and laid out. It's 3.6% of distributors' gross revenue.
Mm-hmm.
So if a distributor, for example, sells a product,
Mm-hmm.
let's say for $100,
Yeah.
the actors distribute then $3.60 of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a lot.
So 3.6%. Well, it depends on the
3.6%.
right.
Yeah.
Depends on
So
the amount that it multiplies by. But
right.
3.6% is the digital.
Make a sale that's
Sorry.
If they make a sale that's $100,000, then it's more. If they make a sale that's $10, then it's less. It's based on a ratio that is documentable and recordable.
Right. Auditable. You can track it. Yeah. But the 3.6 is the digital component, right? We're talking about.
3.6 is the residual ratio that is actually in our contracts for the IPA, but the difference is with new media, there is no what we refer to as a prepayment period. With traditional media and film and television, there's a time frame of 4 years, and then it goes to the distributor's gross revenue on a 3.6% model. With the digital media, we go directly to a 3.6. So what that means is for folks who are doing the digital in an experimental environment, they're not at risk for prepayment, not knowing whether or not they're going to get any money back. But if they do sell, then sharing happens.
Okay, so prepayment is kind of like a lump sum beforehand, like in the beginning, whereas for digital, there isn't that, and it's just go straight to 3.6%.
Yes, I refer to it sort of as rent. You're
what?
renting the intellectual property for a period of time.
Right.
In this case, it's 4 years.
Right.
It's equivalent. That's how I equivalent it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I guess your union actually basically set the minimum standards, right? And which is that's what they call the scale or something, right?
Yes, minimum or scale. Yes. So that's a daily fee.
Right.
At which point, yes, that's the minimum. So there are actors who negotiate what we refer to as overscale.
Right.
But there's a basic level that each actor, when hired, that's the rate that they're paid at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Heather, for chatting with me today.
You're very welcome, Kempton. Thank you very much.